Hello everybody, this is Fanny. This is a new class recording for my Anvil pack. I was just actually vacuuming my house. It's so funny because when you're doing something in your everyday life and you're so connected to the collective consciousness, I always try to find the meaning. What is the message that's being sent to me? Like, I have been obsessed for 2 weeks in cleaning my house. Like, I've emptied everything, absolutely everything in my entire house and re-cleaned everything, reorganized everything, spring cleaning, right? And so when something happens, I always try to find the meaning. For example, the other day when I was making this movie, the Yosoi 2022, I had the problem with the sound, right? And I was like, what does it mean? Because when you have a sickness or a challenge, something obstacle, there's always a meaning. It's a message, right? From the universe to you to interpret in your own life. And maybe this week I interpret it this way, and a year from now I will watch the video again and I will interpret it another way because the energy has evolved, the frequency has changed, and so we can apply that message. Just like I always say, when you read the Bible or the prophecies or messages like that, the things that you understood on the total superficial historical fact level a few years ago, when this was more we were in a war or conquest or geography, we were building the maps, all of this was really physical level, right? So this is how we were reading as well. So now that we're becoming more and more into spirituality and frequencies and stuff like that, you can look for the deeper aspect and meaning of things. So when I had this problem with the sound on my movie, I was like, oh, the message is because I always announce everything. I'm like, don't show your goals, show your results. And I'm always excited. I want to share, the information. And sometimes I have so much information, downloads of information, that I'm like, I have to share it. I can't just keep everything. It's like, it's like when you're boiling some water of the pasta, right? And it's so hot, it's like evaporating everywhere. So it's the same with our emotions. This is why it's so important that we find ways to externalize our emotion by working out or writing, or in my case, I record videos. I record a lot of videos and workshops because I feel like this knowledge wants to come out, okay? Because there are people more than ever right now that need to have this information and this knowledge so we can actually change the world. So I've been obsessed for 2 weeks in cleaning my house, and last night I was emptying all the train tracks and everything from this giant box I had, and I emptied everything on the carpet like this. It was a giant sound, like giant mountain, everything fell off. And then I cleaned up everything and I put them back in these boxes right here. You see, I'm cleaning right now. I'm actually vacuuming my house, and I was like, I've had this burst of like inspiration. I stopped right in the middle that I was vacuuming, and I was like, I need to go record this. Okay, so I wake up this morning and I watch the news, and I see that there was train station that was blown by Russia in Ukraine last night. And so while I was actually doing that, putting these train tracks on the floor and cleaning up, they were actually bombing the train stations there in Russia. And then I was blown away this morning. I was like, wow, it's crazy how we are connected to the collective consciousness all the time. And there is always a reason why you're doing this thing and why you're doing another. And so I talk about it in another video as well, how it's always delicate, right, to go and interfere, because there is this nuclear weapon, right, that all the countries, all the main countries, the powers in the world, they have the nuclear weapon. So it's not like you can just go and say, hey, motherfuckers, stop harassing other countries or doing that, because if he's really a crazy guy, which he's proven to be, it's just one button, it's just one button. It's really fast to actually destroy the planet, and you can actually shift the orbit of the Earth. Like, the damages are unbelievable, and this is why all the galactic forces and like telepathic communication or alien influences, which is, I'm not going to prove in this video how I believe that we are in contact constantly with other civilizations, even from other planets and stuff. I mean, this is like old age to think that this is just in a movie. This is actually completely real, and we are them. They channel through us. We are sent for that in our incarnation to bring this knowledge back on Earth, right? So the next war will be a hunt for nuclear weapons. Okay, this is the only thing that is creating war right now in the world is the nuclear weapon. If there was no nuclear weapon, there would be no war, because as soon as a country would be starting to harass another or to try to express dominion or to show dictatorship, terrorize their citizen, it would be so easy for the other country to interfere and say, hey, stop this shit, you know? So, but now it's always like, because when you have crazy people, you're like, okay, there is nuclear energy here in the middle, and so it's delicate to be like, hey, I'm just gonna show up, you know, it's delicate, right? So when you have a problem, yes, now it's great, we're going to help, blah, 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 there's gonna be wars, there's gonna be dead people, you know, and actually I'm thinking of this image that Dean always uses, you know, when there is a river and there is this guy like throwing people at the river, and they're here trying to help the people at the river, but one of the guys is like, no, I'm gonna go up the river and see who is throwing the guys, right? So this is the same thing. It's too much energy, too much money to go and actually solve the war. Now the next thing in a time of mostly peace in the world that we have is that we need to go on a war against nuclear weapon, on a hunt, not a war, a hunt, a removal. Okay, so how is this gonna work? We can't just have a convention and everybody agrees to give up the nuclear weapon and to deactivate and destroy and disappear all the nuclear weapon. Okay, some countries will say yes, it's right, we need to get rid of the nuclear weapons, and some countries will say no, we want to keep it, and some countries will say yes, but they're gonna keep it, right? You can't really just like trust that people are just gonna say, oh yes, okay, that's fine, let's all get rid of nuclear weapons, and then they're gonna keep it, and they're gonna be like, cool, the rest of the world is not gonna have it, we're gonna keep it. So now we are the power, okay? So how it has to be done, it's that it's gonna be like kind of a vote of who gets rid of it first, right? So I think it's gotta be the most trusted people. Who has been the most trusted in history? Who has been showing up to stop the wars? Who has been showing up to help the other people? Who has never been involved in a conflict? Who has always been fighting for peace, never involved in a war, or trying to always remove the weapons and stuff like that? So these are the people who keep it last, okay? The trusted people. I'm sorry, it's like, it should be everybody at the same time, but this is an utopia of saying that everybody's going to be honest and do it. When you see there are so crazy people, like what is going on in Russia right now. So these people who have always been at war, like Russia or Japan, or and you can't judge a country of their state of how they are now from what they were 50 years ago. The governments have changed. Everything has changed, right? So I'm not an expert in politics, but the people who are the China, the Korea, all these people who are still have dictatorships, still traumatizing their people, who are not involved into peace or into international conventions and stuff like that, these are the ones that we need to take the weapons from them first. Okay? And so having like a pyramidal list like that of like less trusted to more trusted, and this would be a vote by everybody, right? And that the last people who actually been trusted helping for peace, when we make sure that all the other ones, everybody else is clear from these weapons, can remove them as well. Then you can never prevent that they will rebuild it, but I think we would need to create a more international system of education where from the very young age at the universities. Like we stop teaching how to use the nuclear energy, and we replace those curriculums in the universities, in the scientists, in the specialties, the PhDs, all these researchers like that have been creating those, replacing all this with the free energy, with organic solar, and introducing all the spiritual peace content, like reprogramming, a mass reprogramming towards, literally like in the Men in Black, you know, when they come and they like they erase your memory, you know, like this is what we need to do, like erase the memory of everybody on how to build the nuclear weapons. I don't know, but I was just thinking about that on while I was vacuuming. And why vacuuming? Because vacuuming, you're cleaning the house, you're cleaning the entire world. I was like, man, this is why I have been obsessed cleaning my house, cleaning everything, like making sure every corner is clear. All right, because this is what we need to do for the earth. We need to go on this search of like, and the bad people as well, who has been contributed. Because nowadays, when you're whistleblower, when you're the ones who speaks the truth, who tries to put out the information, you are the ones that they point fingers at you, saying, oh, you're risking, you know, national security. No, it's like we are free to speak. Okay, we are free to give information. Everybody should have the information. Everybody should be able to open their eyes. Okay, so what we need to be on the hunt for is the bad people, the people who create the problems, the people that we have to hide from. We are not the ones who have to hide. They should be, because when we find them, then we're going to lock them up, or we're going to just brainwash them, or find a way to just turn it around. And it's most of the time it's not with violence. Most of the time it's with love. The more, you know, the angry people, when you're angry, mad, feel hopeless, you know, when you feel like you have nothing to lose, is when you're like, oh, fuck it, whatever, I have nothing to lose, so I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do this, right? Or nobody cares, so I'm gonna be, you know, most of the time you think by punishing your child or putting somebody aside is gonna make them feel like, hey, think about what you did. But it's the opposite. It's like, oh, nobody cares. Okay, I'm just gonna let myself go. Okay, I'm just gonna destroy myself, you know? And this is in the case that people are good people. If you're in a depression, and you're essentially a good person, you will remove yourself from the world, you will destroy yourself, right? But when you have mean people that are angry towards society and stuff like that, and they're angry and mad and sad and they feel they have nothing to lose, they're not gonna hurt themselves. Or if they're gonna hurt themselves, they're gonna make sure they hurt the rest of the world as well, because they want revenge. Okay, so pointing fingers and violence and stuff is not the way. It's showing love, it's showing them how they matter, right? So the people who, all the militaries and stuff like that, can you imagine all these militaries who are now killing other people? Like, they're in the adrenaline. Maybe we don't know why they're doing it. Maybe the Russian governments, they're threatening their families. Hey, if you don't go do that, we're gonna get your sister, we're gonna get your family, or we're gonna cut off your retirement. We're gonna, you know, they're finding ways. So some of them, maybe they're on drugs. Okay, they don't even know what they're doing. But when it's gonna hit a few years later, these are the people we're gonna have to be there for them to say, okay, how can we, you know, the ones that are not locked up, but how can we heal these people? Okay, because I think, yeah, there are psychopaths that think that killing is funny, and for these guys, well, they need to be locked up. But most of the people, I think, that are in the military, they don't realize that what they're actually doing, or they're doing it against their will. So all of their lives, they're gonna feel guilty. They're gonna have to deal with the guilt. So even I was posting, I was like, this morning, I was like, so did even someone ask Putin, like, what do you want? What do you want? Instead of being like, oh, this guy is an enemy, why is he throwing a tantrum? Like, does he need a hug? Like, what is it? Like, for me, I see him like a little boy. He's throwing a tantrum. He's like, what is it? Like, did someone take your vodka? Like, I don't know, you know, let's try to understand the reason, right? And try to heal that. And and bring the education and the love and reprogramming all these people, not by violence, okay, but saying, okay, even as hard as it is, but be like, okay, why did you do that? Like, what's, poverty? How do we make sure that people don't depend on money, that they have to commit this kind of acts? Like, hey, if you don't do that, we're gonna cut off your paycheck. We're gonna take your family, whatever, So creating a safe environment for them. A new government was a safe environment where they're gonna be like, okay, now I'm taking my revenge on the world by making it better. Most of the speakers, they're ancient gangsters, drug addicts, or homeless people, or desperate, or family problems, issues, like people who've been dealing with dramas and traumas and stuff like that, and who are taking their revenge on life because either they want to prove themselves better or they want to prove their families better. So it's not that you did something wrong and then this is the end. No, it's like these people actually know more because they know how the system used to work, and now how can we turn them back so they can help building the new system, the new world. But always, I think because I'm saying this because myself, I've been into these crazy times in my life, and that the only thing that made me come and actually try to come and work with the military, and 2 years ago, I freaking hated the military. Like, I wanted to burn all of them. Like, seriously, I freaking hated them. And because I wasn't feeling safe, I felt like every time I would go there, that would be looked at like the enemy. Like, the people like my ex-husband used to hang out with, they were really not caring about the family. They were doing like exactly the opposite, like destroying our family indirectly by doing all this crazy stuff. Well, I think if it had been in a safe environment, it wouldn't have been doing all this stuff, and then that rippled to our family and then my own behavior. The only thing that made me change is by feeling safe again, that seeing the military creating a safe environment for the families and for seeing what they're actually doing for the world, and finding my mentors and finding a community that made me feel safe to be myself, feel safe to open up, to take actions, to be involved as well. So feeling safe, I think, this is back to the survival mode, but this is the energy I'm feeling right now. Like, my voice is even shaking. I'm super safe and comfortable in my house, but I can feel like what's going on in the world, how this like survival energy, like how people just need to feel safe again, So for all of us that we have the comfort and we have the luck to be in these more elevated frequencies, okay, because we're not focused on the survival that much, but we're able to connect to this higher frequency, elevated consciousness, and to ripple also on the invisible realms and forces, then this is our role to keep bringing, of course, the positivity and stuff, to bring like a much higher balance, right? We can't just say, oh, there is this horrible stuff going on, survival mode and stuff, and like I'm doing right now, putting myself so down that I can feel everything. And myself, I'm feeling like so unsure. This morning I was like, I don't even know if I want to post this video. I'm scared, like what is the consequences? But then are we letting the terrorists win again and be scared and shutting our mouth again? Or are we actually elevating, trusting that the message will go to the right people, and trying to rebalance, by staying in these high vibrations? And I'm cleaning my house right now, so hopefully this will clean the world as well, the collective energy, so we can, when I'm being dragged down, I'm feeling those energies, so it drags me down a little bit, but by connecting, it elevates this a little bit. So if we all do that, elevate as much as we can all rebalance, right? And not just like creating this gap and saying, these are the bad guys, we're so good, we're so much better, and creating the gap, and so the divide will be even bigger. So like Tony Robbins say, filling the gap. and we're the bridge, right? Dean says that as well. Whew. All right, so this was my little thing that was going through my mind while I was cleaning my house. So I'm gonna go back to my vacuum. I hope all this will calm down soon. And it's also in these times that you can create amazing, beautiful alliances as well. You know, see who comes, you know, in even my life when the most troubled time, I could see who are my real friends, who actually came for me and stays, despite the polarities, despite the good time and the bad times. You know, these persons who were always here, who never gave up, and that sometimes you feel like, oh, how are they going to react if I do that? And no, they're still here, they're still supporting. Like, man, these people, I can die for them. Like, I will be grateful and love them forever, you know. And I think for the alliances, for the politics, it's the same. Like, in these times, you can see who are your allies, you know. And sometimes I even, like, as a protection, like I welcome some people in my life, and it's even like almost like I do something super weird, super crazy, like subconsciously, not on purpose, be like, oh, I'm gonna be super crazy to see if they stay or not, but subconsciously, like, I welcome new people in my life, and all of a sudden I'm doing something crazy, and then I'm like, oh man, they just show up, and now I do that, they're gonna think I'm you know, stupid or crazy or a mad person, and then I'm like, well, if they really can read my heart, they will stay. If they don't judge the circumstances or the outside, that we're all emotions, okay? Some days you have a bad day, and everybody does. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, except that many people, when they have a bad day, they hide in their corner, they shut down, right? Because they're ashamed or they're not confident. And so more and more I share the good days and the bad days. And every time I share the bad thing, the negative things, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should. What are the people going to think? And then instantly I'm like, well, the people who know me, who actually can read my heart and be beyond my words, because we can never express ourselves exactly the perfect way that we would like, or there is always something you forget to say, or maybe you say too much. But the people who actually read your heart, I'm like, these guys, they will say, you know. So all these behaviors, it's interesting to analyze that, yeah, on the most global and collective level. All right, everybody, have a great day. I hope all these conflicts will be resolved soon, and that we will get rid of this crazy weapon and replaced by clean energies, and use the forces of nature to power our planet. Oh, okay, all right, bye guys.